Sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and could even keep you from the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. Welcome to the No BS Sales School podcast. I'm your host, Walker McKay. First thing I want to say is Adderall is a hell of a drug. I take it for my ADHD. I take it every single day, and it makes a huge difference in the way my brain works. And in a much better way, it gives me energy and focus and all those things that I really enjoy that help me. And somehow I had 5 pills missing this month, and I could not renew the prescription. And so I had to go without Adderall for 5 days, the same week that my assistant Amanda is out of town. It has been a freaking disaster. I've been trying to hold everything together and it hasn't been working great. But now I can renew my prescription and I got the meds and I'm back on it and I'm ready to go. So if you talked to me in the last 3 or 4 days and I seemed a little bit slow, not put together, that's because I was not put together. So anyway, but now I'm back. Well, I want to talk to you today about why your sales cycle, why your deals are getting stalled, why they're getting stalled, and what you can do about it. And there are probably 2 things going on that are helping your deals to stop. Number 1 is your mindset, your beliefs. And the second is your, I would say, for lack of a better word, your tactics or your techniques. Let's talk about the mindset first. Have you ever been working on a deal? Right. And it's a big size deal, right? And you're meeting with somebody and you think to yourself, wow, this is a big decision. I would need to think about it if I were to make a decision like this. You know, people like this, maybe it's you. Whenever you make a decision over a certain amount of money, you've got to sleep on it. Think about it. Take your time, pray about it, talk to your wife, talk to your husband, talk to a number of different people before you can actually pull the trigger. This is probably normal behavior. And if I was your buyer coach, I would say, keep doing that because you can probably get some pretty good deals by dragging things out and dragging things out and dragging things out, because most salespeople, if you say, let me think it over, they'll just take that as I've still got a chance, right? I've still got a chance. If you're really in the know, however, I want you to recognize that the people you're supposed to be calling on are decision makers. So what does that mean that their job is to do? It's to make decisions, right? This should be normal for them. This is what they get paid to do. So the first thing I want you to start doing is start thinking like a decision maker and recognize that delaying will often cost you more than making a decision. Now, there are some decisions you can never reverse, or they're very difficult to reverse. And sure, maybe take your time, but manage people's expectations this way, right? I want you to get better at, when you want to go buy something, have an idea in your mind what you're willing to spend, what you're looking for, go someplace you trust and buy it. Maybe it's a car, maybe it's a washer and dryer, maybe it's picking an attorney. Go find somebody you trust, have an idea in mind what you're willing to spend, and make a decision. The better you get at making decisions, the better, you'll begin to see that as normal, right? Normal that decision makers should make decisions. Crazy, I know. But if you're somebody that sleeps on things, doesn't make decisions well, when you hear from your prospect, let me think it over, let me sleep on it, let me talk to somebody else, I want you to realize that that's a stall. And it's not a yes. It's usually just a long no. Like 80% of the time, it's just a long no. So I want you to make yourself better. Make yourself a better decision maker. Be willing to say yes or no in the sales call when you're buying something. Set yourself up in a place where you have enough information, you ask the right questions, and you can say yes. And even more importantly, you'll learn to say no, because no needs to be your second favorite word. I want you to use it all the time. You're going to hear it a lot of the time. The better we get at salespeople at saying no ourselves, the more time we free up, the less obligations we have, and the more time we can focus on the shit that's important and the deals that are going to work. So, mindset stuff. Become a better decision maker yourself. Get better at saying yes or no to opportunities. Recognize when you say you want to think it over, sleep on it, basically you're putting off it. You're actually made a decision, but you're putting off the ultimate decision, which puts you closer to no. So I want you to accept no's. I want you to look for no's and push for no's in your conversations. All right. So now, technique-wise, what do we do? How do we set this thing up to shorten our sales cycle? First of all, again, I want you to look at your mindsets. I had a client of mine who was a financial advisor, and he swore to me that nobody could make big decisions like moving $1 million over unless they met with him 4 or 5 times. 4 or 5 times. That's what he decided was the right amount of time, and he was proved that because that's how long it was taking people. Well, we ran the numbers, right? And how many people came to the first meeting? Let's just call it 10. Then how many came to the second meeting was 5. And then 3 to the third meeting. And then 2 to the fourth meeting. And then 1 at the 5th meeting. So isn't it amazing, right? The fallout from it taking longer. Time kills deals. More meetings often kill deals. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. We've got long sales cycles in our business. This is complicated stuff. It can take 6 months to 2 years. I get it. I understand that. But you should be getting commitments to move forward or not all along the way. What the guy figured out with his in the investment business was that, I challenged him. Let's see if we can get them closed just in 4. Let's don't put up with a 5th meeting. That's bullshit. Right. And so all of a sudden he was able to manage it to 4. And then I said, let's try 3. He's like, I don't know about 3. And we worked on 3. And all of a sudden he noticed that he could get a pretty good amount of business in 3. And he had a whole lot more people in the 3rd meeting. And I was like, okay, time to get scary, Jamie. Let's see if you can do it in 2 meetings. What? No way. No way. And we found out after a year, guess what? 2 meetings is the most he needs. 2 meetings at the most. He quit putting his prospects through all that hell. He's got a lot more business, and he finds that he likes the people that can make decisions. They're better clients anyway. All right. I promise you we talk about technique, but we just talked about mindset again. Another example, right? We've been told it takes this long, and so we just accept that it takes this long. And our experience will show us it does because we've allowed it to happen. Here's what I want you to do. Now that you have adopted the mindset that people can make decisions, as long as they know the decision they're supposed to make and they're told ahead of time so they can prepare, they should be able to make a decision. So here's what I want you to do. When you go into each meeting, I want you to have in your mind an ideal outcome for the meeting. What's an ideal outcome for the meeting? Maybe the ideal outcome is, the best thing that could possibly happen if somebody trusted you 100%, they had the budget, everything else. What's the best thing that could happen? Ideal, right? Oftentimes it's something like sign a contract, buy it. That's the ideal outcome. So why would you not, at the beginning, at your first meeting, when you're having a conversation with somebody, at the very beginning, say, typically at the end of a meeting like this, we're deciding whether or not you sign a contract, write me a check so we could get started. How about this? At the end of the meeting, if you're not sure you want to do that, let's call it a no. If you are okay, and we both think it's a good idea, I've got the contract right here, and you just hand me a check, we're good to go. Right? Tell people at the beginning of the meeting. Again, there's a process here, but the simple version is typically in a meeting like this, we're figuring out whether or not it makes sense to do X. And so maybe they go, well, no, I'm not ready. I couldn't possibly buy today. You say, okay, other times when we meet, we're figuring out whether or not you do X, and maybe it's bring the decision maker in or whatever that is, right? Have something that you both can decide yes or no about at the end of the meeting. Be straight up with people. Be transparent. Don't wonder what they're thinking. Ask them. Hey, listen, usually when I meet with people for the first time, we're deciding whether or not they want to move their money over here, switch, how about this? Whether or not they want to fire their current agent, hire us so that we can fix the problems they've been dealing with. Are you okay with that? And if somebody says yes, you say, great, I've got a broker of record letter right here. And at the end of the meeting, if we both think that's a great idea, we'll sign it, fire your agent, move the business over. But if we're both not sure about that, I'll tear it up. We'll move on, be friends anyway. Is that okay with you? They'll say, sure. You say, all right, anything less than you're thinking that's a great idea, let's call it a no and we'll tear up the stuff. All right? Let people know what the meeting is about. Let people know what typically happens. People want to do what other people like them typically do. So let them know what that is. My contention is that people do not know how to buy from us. They don't know. They've been trained by crappy salespeople who give them information, and then hope that the person just kind of falls over and buys from them. You don't have to be that way. Think about all the time you've wasted with people that ended up not buying. Think about that. It's a lot, I bet. If you've been in business for a while, it's probably a lot. I want you to think about flipping your mindset from how do I qualify this person, which is very optimistic. That means the burden's on you to, quote, qualify them. Here's how I want you to think about it. Disqualify those people. Think about the reasons why it may not make sense to move forward. Maybe they don't have real pain. Maybe there's not anything more than just a problem there, nothing there they have to solve. Maybe there's no budget. Maybe they're not in any urgency to fix it. Maybe they're not the decision maker. Maybe it's not that big of a deal to them. Maybe you just don't think you'd get along. Maybe their values don't align with you. These are the things you're supposed to figure out in the sales call. If you know the end or what you're trying to figure out yes or no to as the salesperson, right? And they know this is what they need to figure out yes or no to. Here's the decision, yes or no, we're going to make at the end of the call. Then you can ask the questions you need to ask to figure out if you're okay moving forward. It also allows the buyer, the prospect, to figure out the questions they need to know, the answers to the questions they need to know to make that decision. If we don't establish up front what we're trying to decide, how the hell do you even know what questions to ask? How would they even know, right? Give people the opportunity to do it the right way. Show them that it's okay to make a decision. And if they're not okay saying yes, then let's call it a no, not a problem. It's always, if you treat people with respect and you allow them to say no, hell, you even encourage them to say no, if they're not sure, guess how easy it is to talk to them again in 3 months or 6 months or 12 months? It's pretty damn easy. They're happy to take your phone call as opposed to you're bullying and badgering them to say yes. They won't want to take your call again. Who the hell wants to go through that? I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Need help with this? Happy to talk to you about it. Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you're struggling to close deals, then I want to invite you to take my free mini course where you'll learn the 7 most expensive sales mistakes that will cost you time, money, and credibility. So be sure to click the link in the show notes or go to www.7salesmistakes.com. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.